Let's talk about recession proofing your business. And we're going to be examining this today from the perspective of getting your legal house in order. And so, one of the things you need to be thinking about with a recession is potential disruption to your income stream, what that means to your employees, contracts, and other things. And another big thing, which we'll be covering in a shorts coming up here on the channel, is the fact that recessions also potentially mean more litigation. So there's several things that we want to be looking at as business owners and business leaders to make sure we have our house in order in light of a recession. So we'll be talking about that today, and later we'll be talking about specific solutions and things you can start doing now to prepare for the recession. So a couple of things that happen in recessions, obviously, is we have income streams that may get disrupted. And so customers and people we work with regularly may start having income problems. This may mean less cash flow coming in. It may mean accounts receivable, stuff that you're accruing and used to getting money for. Some of that might become unpayable. On the other side of the equation, the other thing we need to think about too is that sometimes in these downturn situations, vendors go out of business. So we don't think as much about the expense side of the sheet as we think about the income side of the sheet with recession risk. But, we see isolated incidents where you might be working with somebody as a vendor or as a supplier to your business, somebody who's regularly putting things into the business, and suddenly now they are struggling, or perhaps they go out of business. If you've prepaid with a vendor and they go out of business, you may end up finding yourself in a bankruptcy situation where you need to go through and collect that prepayment that you gave them, and you may be in line with other creditors. You may not be able to get your money back. Additionally, if you're relying on them supplying something to you, you might be in a situation where you have an executory contract, meaning a contract that's partially completed that still needs to be executed. And in those cases, in a bankruptcy situation, the bankruptcy trustee often gets to make a decision on whether that contract happens or not. So you may be sitting there waiting to see what happens with your contract. So a lot of exposure, not just on the income side, but the expense side. And so that means doing some planning now to make sure that we understand that risk and that we're planning for that potential. Maybe we need to diversify our suppliers, not put all of our eggs in one basket. Maybe we need to look for new customers in case something happens to our existing customers. A lot of planning can go around. What do we do in the event of an economic downturn? Looking further downstream, another big piece of this is what happens if litigation increases. Now, lawyers often surmise that litigation goes up when the economy goes down. So the standard thought among lawyers is when the economy's good and people are making money doing deals, they want to focus their time and attention on deals, right? They're looking for the next thing. So if you think about in terms of a real estate developer in an upward-facing economy, that real estate developer wants to get developing the next property. They just want to keep flowing and making money. If they're doing something profitable, the average smart business person, if they got something profitable, they're just going to keep doing it over and over and over again, rinse and repeat. They're not going to want to stop and do something different. However, when your core business starts to slow down or dry up and you don't have as many projects or you don't have as many profitable things to spend your time on, you often start looking around in the crevices of the couch, as they say, looking for quarters and change. And so this is why a lot of lawyers think when the economy goes down, people start looking to litigation, right? And things aren't going as well in the business. The money's not coming in. Now you're more concerned because it's more important financially with what others have done to you. But you also have the time and attention to put into going after somebody. Something bad happens in an extremely fast economy and the money's flowing in. You might get upset. And then a week or two later, you're on to your next project. You're not thinking about it. In a down economy, when that next project isn't coming in, you may be more likely to look around for problems and to say, hey, let's go fight over this. Let's get our money back. We need that money back to cover payroll or whatever other expenses, right? People get a little more needy in a down economy, which means they are more likely to turn to litigation. So everybody needs to be thinking in terms of litigation risk. So a down economy not only means potential income issues, potential expense issues, but it also means perhaps more time in the courthouse. Of course, litigation should be, for most people, synonymous with expenses. Litigation tends to be an expensive process, right? You need to get lawyers, you need to get facts, you need to develop the case, you need to make motions, you got people going back and forth to the courthouse, you've got costs associated with the litigation, expense. So while the economy might be down, your income might be struggling for the reasons we talked about. You might be wasting money with some suppliers or vendors going out of business and having to repurchase things with different people. You've got all of that going on at the same time while your litigation risk is going up too. So you've got to manage all of this and get yourself ready. How do you get ready? Well, for income side, take a good look at your customers. Take a look at their credit worthiness. Maybe initiate a review of all of your customers to see whether they should be getting the same payment terms that they're getting right now, or maybe things need to be adjusted. Look at maybe whether you have too much money with one or two customers, right? Is there a concentration risk, as the accountants would call it? On the vendor side, while we don't think as much about the risk with vendors, there is a very real possibility that you're doing business with a vendor who might be financially struggling, may eventually go out of business. Again, same type of analysis. Do we have enough vendors? Do we need to diversify? Are we purchasing all of one product from one vendor? Well, how could we get another second or third vendor involved in that product? And then who are we spending a lot of money with? What does their financial profile look like? Are we in a situation where we could come back and somehow get entangled with them if they have financial issues? Not to mention, a vendor not only might have financial issues, might not perform a contract, there's always the chance that that vendor might lower the quality of a product in an attempt to save money. That is okay if they can keep the quality the same, but a lot of times what they'll do is they start cutting corners, maybe lowering inspections, maybe lowering the specifications of the product. So you might end up in a situation where you're buying more junk. That can be disruptive, it can be costly, but also from a business standpoint, you might incorporate their junky product into something you're making, which pushes it downstream, which causes your problems. You're still going to have to deal with the reality of that product being bad. And so we need to manage all of these different exposures. And from a litigation standpoint, I always recommend spending time and attention thinking about potential litigation, understanding your risk points, understanding how to manage things to lower your inflation risk. All of that advice still remains very, very solid even today. But even with that and managing your inflation, you want to managing your risk of litigation, managing all of that, you still want to be thinking about how do we make sure we have the war chest in place if we do end up in significant litigation? What can we do to tie up our contracts better? How can we be more discerning about who we enter into contracts with, right? We don't want to enter into contracts with people who are going to cause issues with us that are going to litigate. So that means people that are busier, people that are more financially sound, people that have a history of being good business people and not causing issues. This is more of who you want to do business with because you don't want to get caught up in these downstream issues. So we really got to think about how do we manage all of this, right? So a little bit of time in meetings, a little bit of time with your board, and really sitting down and talking through this is going to make a big difference in your business. Questions or comments, drop them below. Keep them general in nature. If you have something specific, something confidential, please don't leave the comment here. Other people can see it. Go meet with an attorney so you can take advantage of attorney-client privilege to the full extent permitted by law. If you're a new subscriber here and you can, please say hi. Let me know you just subscribed. I like to interact with the new subscribers. And regardless of whether you're a new subscriber, you've been around for a while, always welcome your comments and suggestions for future videos. I appreciate you all tuning in. I'll be back with another video soon. Thanks.